Hey team! In this video, we're going to talk about the difference of point of view and perspective. So by the end of this video, you all will be able to define perspective and point of view. And by the end of this video, you will be able to change our story from Cassie's perspective to that of different characters. So we're going to start off thinking about point of view, which is basically thinking about how a story is told. How did the author decide to tell the story? So if we think of our pink monster friend here, first person is when the narrator is part of the story. So you're seeing words like I, me, my, or we, us, and ours, because the narrator is part of the story. Second person, or blue monster friend, which we don't see quite as often, is when the narrator is speaking directly to us, to the reader. So you'll see words like you and yours. And third person, which we see often, is when the narrator is telling the story about other characters. He or she did that. They are doing this, right? We see words like they, he, she, them, him, hers, theirs, his, hers. That's third person point of view. So if we think about our novel, right, Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry, we're going to look at two excerpts from our story. You're going to think about what point of view is that being told in? How did the author decide to tell this story? Suddenly, I grew conscious of a break in that monotonous tone, and I looked up. And later, rapidly, I turned to the inside cover of my own book and saw immediately what had made Little Man so furious. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, I see the word I see the word my. That means that Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry is written in the first person point of view. So we've talked about point of view, or how the story is told. Now we're going to think about perspective, which considers whose side of the story are we hearing, or whose shoes are we in. So if we look at this example, right, of a picture of the same situation, right, this is two pictures or two drawings of the exact same situation. One perspective is that the man on land is very excited to see a boat, right? In his shoes, from his side of the story, he's been sitting there waiting for a boat for who knows how long. But the other perspective of the same situation is that the man on the boat has been looking for land for so long, and he's thrilled to have found land. Right? So we're focusing on whose shoes are we in, even though it's the same situation. Whose side of the story are we hearing? So if we look at here, SpongeBob and Patrick are on a roller coaster. Patrick's perspective is, I hate these roller coasters. I can't believe SpongeBob is having so much fun, right? We can see his thoughts, his feelings, his actions of making that face are influencing the story, influencing his perspective. So looking at SpongeBob's face, looking at SpongeBob's actions, we're thinking about, what is SpongeBob's perspective? And his perspective, his side of the story is, I'm having so much fun. I wish Patrick was enjoying himself. Woohoo! Right? So there's two different perspectives, two sides of the story. And their thoughts, feelings, and actions can influence the way that we understand what's going on here on this roller coaster. So now we're going to think about Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry. Okay, so we're going to read an excerpt from Cassie's perspective, right? Our whole book is told from Cassie's perspective. Then we're going to think about, what might Miss Crocker's perspective have been in that situation? Okay, so first we're going to read this text in blue, which is told through Cassie's perspective. Suddenly, I looked up and saw Miss Crocker was sitting at Miss Davis's desk with the first grade books stacked before her, staring fiercely down at Little Man, who was pushing a book back upon the desk. "What's that you said, Clayton Chester Logan?" she said. Everyone knew Little Man was in big trouble, for no one ever called Little Man Clayton Chester, unless she or he meant serious business. He quivered or shook. I said, "May I have another book, please, ma'am?" He squeaked. "That one's dirty." She said, "Dirty? And just who do you think you are, Clayton Chester?" Okay, so there's Cassie's perspective. Our prompt asks in yellow to read the event told through Cassie's perspective and change it to Miss Crocker's perspective in the box below. You must have 2 to 3 sentences in your response. Okay, so we just read Cassie's perspective. We could see, right, that Miss Cassie described how Miss Crocker was sitting at Miss Davis's desk with the first grade book stacked before her, staring fiercely down at Little Man. So from Cassie's perspective, Miss Crocker was staring fiercely. From Cassie's perspective, Miss Crocker says, "Dirty, and just who do you think you are?" So now we need to think about Miss Crocker's perspective. What might she have been thinking, feeling, or doing to influence the story? So here's our answer from Miss Crocker's perspective. These are Miss Crocker's shoes, or Miss Crocker's side of the story. "I felt so upset when Little Man looked up at me and asked me for another book. How could he be so disrespectful as to ask for another book? The nerve! At the same time, I felt horrible. I knew these books were not good enough for these kids, but there was nothing I could do." So here we can see Miss Crocker speaking from first person point of view, right? We see the I that tells us, the me that tells us it's first person point of view, but this is from Miss Crocker's side of the story. So now it's your turn to practice. What you all are going to do is this. You're going to log into Canvas and click on the English 6 class. Okay, you're going to take note of these other assignments that are in the gradebook. You should catch up on later if you need to. But for right now, you're going to click Modules. This is the video that you're watching right now. And then you're going to click on the Perspective and POV, or Point of View Assignment 1. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Hit Begin. And after you answer these first 2 questions about point of view, you're going to do the exact same thing we just did for Miss Crocker, except you're going to write it from Little Man's perspective. Okay, so first read the event through Cassie's perspective, right here. Then change it to Little Man's perspective in the box below. You must write at least 2 to 3 sentences. Okay, so tell us Little Man's side of the story. Tell us what Little Man might be thinking, feeling, or doing from his perspective. All right. If you guys have any questions, you can always reach out to Mr. Cross or I. Have a wonderful rest of your day.